Tyler said with that half smile I'd grown to despise. "We're heading in a new direction. Thanks for everything, but we need people who fit the new model." I'm Logan Barrett, 38 years old, senior account executive at Veltri Dynamics for 7 years. Well, at least until about 45 seconds ago I nodded quietly, said nothing, didn't argue, didn't try to remind them I'd just closed our most successful quarter ever, didn't mention I'd personally brought in 60% of the company's revenue, and didn't ask what the new model actually meant. "Understood, best of luck," I said, standing up. Tyler looked almost disappointed, like he'd been expecting, maybe even hoping, for me to lose it, to give him a reason to spin some story about me after I left. But instead, I walked out calmly, leaving behind my shelf full of top performer awards. 7 years of hard work collecting dust. Let him have them. Back at my desk, I packed up fast. Grabbed a few personal photos, my coffee mug, and the baseball Jason had signed after I helped him secure his first funding round around me. Co-workers stared at their screens, furiously typing nonsense, avoiding any eye contact. Human resources went through the usual exit routine, reminders about the non-compete, a checklist for returning company property, and the exit survey link. The woman across from me seemed uneasy. She knew the numbers I'd delivered, knew my true value. I handed over my badge, laptop, and phone. "Good luck with everything, Logan," she said, and I could hear the genuine regret in her voice. "Thanks," I replied. As the elevator descended, I wasn't angry. Not exactly. Something colder had settled in, a quiet certainty that Tyler McRae had just made the biggest mistake of his career. He'd only been at Veltri Dynamics less than a month, spouting buzzwords and Harvard Business Review quotes, obsessed with making the sales culture more aggressive. Whatever that meant, what Tyler didn't realize, and what HR never checked, was that every one of my top clients had a personal connection to me. College roommates who started their own companies, groomsmen from my wedding now heading procurement, lifelong friends who'd been with me since before Veltri Dynamics even existed to him. They were just numbers on a spreadsheet. To me, they were decades of relationships. I stepped outside to my car, jacket slung over my shoulder, when my personal phone buzzed with a message from Brian, my biggest client. "You free for lunch tomorrow?" For the first time that day, I smiled. I'd been with Veltri Dynamics since they were a scrappy startup working out of a converted warehouse in Cincinnati. Just 15 people with big dreams but empty pockets. I was employee number 8. My role was straightforward: bring in clients, keep them happy, and grow those relationships. I did it not by handing out branded pens or taking people golfing, but by genuinely caring, remembering birthdays, asking about their kids, calling just to check in, not to sell. I was a partner, not just a vendor. When Brian launched his logistics company, I was his first call for supply chain software. When Jason's health tech startup needed security integration, I brought him on board. When Dave expanded his manufacturing business, I made sure we scaled alongside him. 62% of my portfolio came from people I'd known before they were clients. The rest came through their referrals. Trouble first showed up 3 months ago during the quarterly review when our CEO introduced Tyler McRae, a guy from some Silicon Valley firm I'd never heard of. Hair too perfect, smile too wide. He screamed ambition without substance. "Tyler's going to revolutionize our sales approach," the CEO said. "Make us more competitive in the modern market." I'd heard this kind of talk before, from people who'd never closed a deal themselves. 2 weeks later, Tyler called a sales meeting and unveiled a new client acquisition plan focused on cold outreach quotas and scripted pitches, all about metrics and analytics, never once mentioning relationships. Afterward, Dave texted me, "Your new boss seems like a real piece of work." Another warning came at a client dinner when Tyler insisted on joining me and Brian, talking over him and constantly dropping corporate jargon that made Brian visibly uncomfortable. In the parking lot afterward, Brian pulled me aside. That guy's gonna be trouble for you, isn't he? I shrugged it off, thinking he was just finding his footing, but something in my gut told me otherwise. The way Tyler scrutinized my client list, questioned my process but never my results, and started scheduling one-on-ones with junior reps without including me, I should have seen it coming. The signs were clear. I just didn't want to believe someone would be stupid enough to destroy what took me years to build. After I was fired, I didn't call anyone, didn't need to, by 7 p.m. That evening, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. First Brian. Just got an email about my new account manager, what's going on? Then Jason. Some kid called me, said he's taking over my account. You okay, Dave? Your replacement just called, sounded about 12. Are you switching roles? One by one, 18 major clients I managed reached out within hours, not because Veltri Dynamics contacted them, but because they wanted to hear from me first, sitting on my back deck, bourbon in hand, watching Cincinnati's skyline as dusk fell. The anger I expected never came. Instead, a cold clarity washed over me. Tyler had made a fundamental error. He saw spreadsheets, not people, revenue, not relationships, judged my worth by what he thought I did, not by what I actually built. My phone rang again. This time Allison from Tralla Freight, a client I'd landed 3 years ago. Logan, what the hell's going on? Some guy called saying he's my new contact. They let me go this morning, I said simply. Silence on the line. Are you serious after that quarter you had? The new VP has a different vision. Well, his vision better include finding a new logistics partner because I'm not working with whoever this new guy is. Did they even consider how much business you bring in? Apparently not. I'm calling Jennifer now. Jennifer was our CEO. This is ridiculous. I appreciate that, but don't put yourself in an awkward spot, Logan. You bailed us out of technical emergencies at midnight. You came to my dad's funeral. This isn't business, it's personal. After Allison, 5 more clients called with the same story by 10 p.m. I switched off my phone, needed time to think things through. I wasn't about to actively sabotage Veltri Dynamics. That wasn't how I operated. But I also wasn't going to shield them from the fallout of their own poor choices. The next morning, I woke to an email from Jessica Lewis, VP of Sales at Hailtorm Brewing, Veltri's biggest competitor. We'd crossed paths at industry events over the years and always kept things friendly. She wrote, "Heard what happened. Unbelievable. Let's meet for coffee this week." I didn't have to guess how she'd caught wind. News travels fast in our world. As I showered and got dressed, something inside me shifted. The loyalty I once felt for Veltri Dynamics, the company I'd helped build, had completely evaporated. They hadn't just let go of an employee. They'd burned bridges they didn't even realize existed. I texted back, "Coffee sounds great tomorrow at 9 o'clock?" Her reply came instantly. "Perfect. Got some ideas I think you'll like." For the first time since leaving Tyler's office, I smiled. Not from bitterness, but because I finally recognized my true worth. Veltri Dynamics would see it soon enough. The cafe Jessica chose was on the far side of town. Smart move. Cincinnati's business scene was too tight-knit for accidental encounters. Jessica looked just as I remembered. Sharp, confident, effortlessly professional without trying too hard. No power suits, just business casual and a warm smile. "They're idiots," she said after greetings. "Everyone's talking about it, the whole industry. When a top performer suddenly becomes available, people notice." She took a sip of coffee. "Especially when that person accounts for more than half their revenue." I shrugged. "That's ancient history now." "Not according to my phone," she said. "It's been blowing up since yesterday. Clients asking if we've hired you yet." That surprised me. Your clients are asking about me, Logan. You've built relationships all over this industry. People trust you. That's rare. She slid a folder across the table. "Here's what Hailtorm's ready to offer. Director of Enterprise Relationships, A team of 6 reporting to you, base salary 30% higher than before, plus a solid commission structure. I flipped through the papers. The numbers were better than expected, and full autonomy. She added, "Build your division your way." "Sounds good," I said carefully, "but I need to be upfront about one thing." Jessica waved me off. "Non-compete clause? Already ran it by legal, it's practically unenforceable. Ohio courts rarely uphold them, especially when termination is without cause." "Still, I don't want a legal battle." "Agreed. That's why we suggest a 60-day consulting arrangement first, then full employment." It was a solid, thoughtful plan. "One more thing," I said, "about my clients. We're not asking them to break any confidentiality agreements, but if former clients decide to look for new vendors on their own—" I nodded slowly. "That's their business decision." "Exactly." I took a day to mull it over. Though the choice was already clear, I signed the consulting agreement the next morning. By then, the fallout had started. Brian's company, my largest account worth nearly $5 million a year, had paused all implementation projects with Veltri, citing a relationship restructuring evaluation, corporate speak for dissatisfaction. Jason's health tech firm requested full documentation of all processes in case of vendor transition. 3 more clients refused meetings with their new account managers. I hadn't orchestrated any of it. Didn't need to. My friends were just reacting naturally to broken trust. That afternoon, an unknown number called. I hesitated before answering. "Logan Barrett." "Logan, this is Jennifer Murray, Veltri CEO." My stomach tightened. "Jennifer, what can I do for you?" "I'm calling to understand what's happening with our client base." "Not sure what you mean," I said, keeping calm. "I've been gone less than a week." "Several key accounts are threatening to leave. Brian from North Spire Apparel says he'll only speak to you." "The relationships I built were personal, Jennifer. You know that." "Logan, be reasonable. These are company accounts." "I haven't contacted a single client. If they reach out to me, that's their choice." "We need you to help with the transition, to introduce, smooth things over." I almost laughed. "You mean clean up Tyler's mess?" Silence. "The board has concerns about his decision. We could discuss your return. Same position, 10% raise." "Too little, too late. I appreciate the offer, Jennifer, but I've accepted a position elsewhere." A pause. "I hope you'll consider not actively poaching our clients." "I don't need to poach what's already walking out the door." After hanging up, I felt no satisfaction, just confirmation of what I already knew. Veltri valued only revenue, never understanding the relationships behind it. Now they'd learned the difference the hard way. 2 weeks into my consulting role at Hailtorm, I met Brian for lunch at our usual downtown spot. Not fancy, but reliable, with good burgers and private booths for open talks. "Tyler's been calling me every day," Brian said, shaking his head. "Yesterday, he offered a 15% discount if we resumed implementation, but I told him it's not about the money." Brian took a sip of iced tea. "Then he started bad-mouthing you. Said you were on your way out anyway, performance issues." My jaw clenched. Classy. I told him we were exploring other options and hung up. This pattern repeated with other clients. Tyler scrambling, offering desperate deals while trying to undermine me. A classic damage control from someone who knew he'd screwed up. But something else was happening, something unexpected. That evening, Jason called. "You won't believe this. I asked for a full data export just in case, and they're stonewalling, saying our contract doesn't guarantee data portability." "That's not right," I said. "Section 12B specifically covers data ownership and transfer rights. I have the contract here, but their legal team is suddenly reinterpreting it." The next day, Dave reported similar issues, then Allison. One by one, my former clients discovered Veltri was making it hard for them to leave. I called Jessica right away. They're deliberately creating exit barriers, I explained. Technical roadblocks, contract loopholes, sudden system maintenance affecting only clients who indicated they might leave. Jessica wasn't surprised Tyler was fighting for his job now. The board was breathing down his neck over the revenue forecasts. This wasn't your typical retention effort. They were basically holding client data hostage. Jessica's voice turned firm. Get me all the documentation. Every case, every client affected. Our legal team is going to have a field day with this. Over the next week, I gathered evidence. Screenshots showing export functions mysteriously disabled. Emails denying access to services supposedly guaranteed. Recorded calls where Veltri reps made thinly veiled threats about data loss if clients tried to leave early. The real bombshell came from Dave, who accidentally forwarded me an email meant for Tyler. The subject, client retention strategy you requested. It outlined, we've identified technical dependencies we can use to delay transitions for the Barrett accounts. Legal thinks we can stall these for 3 or 4 months at least before risking penalties. Attached was a spreadsheet listing every one of my former clients, each with specific retention tactics assigned. This wasn't just Tyler acting alone. It was a coordinated, deliberate obstruction. I sent everything to Hailtorm's legal team, who responded immediately and decisively. They labeled it tort interference and potential data protection violations. That night, I sat on my deck again, watching Cincinnati's skyline. The city felt different now, 7 years at Veltri, believing I was part of something meaningful, not just building client relationships, but a company with integrity. Now I saw the truth. When faced with consequences, Veltri's leaders chose obstruction over accountability. This was bigger than me. 18 businesses, many run by friends, were being hurt to cover someone else's failure. My phone buzzed. A text from Jessica. Legal has what they need. Board approved a full offensive ready? I replied one word. Yes. That quiet clarity I'd felt before became resolution and determination. This wasn't revenge. It was justice. Hailtorm's lawyers acted fast. Within 48 hours, they drafted cease and desist letters targeting Veltri's tactics, citing contract breaches, data laws, and unfair practices. But they held back on sending them. That decision was mine. We could fire these off tomorrow, Jessica said during our strategy call. Shut down their games immediately. I shook my head. Not yet. I have a better plan. My strategy was simple and effective. Empower my former clients to help themselves. I created a detailed guide outlining every known Veltri obstruction tactic, along with the contractual clauses protecting client rights. Nothing violating my NDA, just an educational resource explaining standard industry contracts. Then I organized a series of casual networking lunches where former clients could meet each other for the first time. No agenda, just business owners sharing experiences. I attended the first, made introductions, then excused myself. Conflict of interest, but you might find common business challenges worth discussing. By the third lunch, they'd formed an informal alliance, swapping notes and realizing they weren't alone in their battles with Veltri. Meanwhile, at Hailtorm, I was building more than just a team. I was designing a client relations division focused on long-term partnerships, not transactions. Jessica gave me full freedom. The board is thrilled, she said after reviewing progress. A month into our efforts, pressure on Veltri-mounted clients demanded their contractual rights, armed with specific knowledge of Veltri's obligations. When multiple major accounts threatened legal action simultaneously, Veltri couldn't brush it off as coincidence. Someone was clearly coordinating the pushback. Jennifer called again. This time her tone was desperate. What do you want, Logan? What will it take to stop this? I'm not doing anything, Jennifer. Your clients are just exercising their contractual rights. We know you're behind this. The board's considering legal action for client interference. You fired me, Jennifer, I reminded her calmly. Any contact I've had since is personal, not professional. Friends, she repeated flatly. Yes, friends, I said. That's what you and Tyler never understood. These weren't just accounts. Silence. Tyler's been let go. Sorry to hear that, I said sincerely. Losing a job unexpectedly was something I knew well. We want to make amends. Full data portability, no early termination fees, clean transitions. That's what my former clients deserved. Sounds reasonable. We want to talk about bringing you back as Executive VP, direct board access. That caught me off guard. I thought about it for 2 seconds. I appreciate the offer, Jennifer, but I found where I belong. After hanging up, I called Brian and the others, not to report the call, but to prepare them. You might find Veltri more cooperative now. Days later, Veltri announced an enhanced client transition program offering exactly what Jennifer had described, spun as a proactive customer service effort everyone knew better. By then, my new department at Hailtorm was taking shape. 3 of my former Veltri team members had already joined, more interviewing late one evening. Jessica stopped by while I finalized our mission statement. Veltri lost 8 major accounts this week, she said. Leaning on the door frame, I kept typing, "Market's always changing, and 6 of them signed with us today." I looked up and smiled. Must be our enhanced client transition program. She laughed. Well, whatever you're doing, keep it up. The board's talking about a seat for you by year's end. I nodded. Titles didn't matter to me. It was about building something unbreakable by one poor decision. Something grounded in real connection. 6 months after joining Hailtorm, I walked into our quarterly board meeting with Jessica and the exec team. The presentation I prepared was straightforward. Department growth, revenue forecasts, and client retention statistics were all laid out clearly. As I wrapped up, the board chair leaned in. These figures are impressive. Logan, 12 new enterprise clients in just 2 quarters with retention rates nearly perfect. What's your secret? No secret, I replied. We focus on relationships, not just transactions. The CFO jumped in next. And the Veltri accounts? 14 of their top 18 clients have now switched over to us. 15, Jessica corrected, sliding a folder across the table. Northridge Technologies signed this morning, a 9-year contract. Murmurs rippled through the room. To be clear, I added, we've never directly solicited Veltri's clients. They've come to us, usually after facing issues with Veltri's transition process, which has been well documented. Jessica tapped another, thicker folder. Our legal team has everything they need should Veltri choose to pursue action. They wouldn't, not with what we had, and certainly not with their reputation already in shambles. Silence filled the room as the board chair reviewed the latest numbers. Then he looked up and nodded toward me. The board has reached a decision. We'd like to offer you the role of Executive Vice President of Strategic Relationships, effective immediately. I accepted with a simple handshake. No gloating, no speeches. That afternoon, the press release went live. My phone buzzed instantly with a message from Brian. Just saw the news. Congratulations, EVP Barrett. Moments later, my assistant knocked on my door. You have a visitor. Jennifer Murray from Veltri Dynamics, no appointment. I debated sending her away but decided against it. Send her in. Jennifer appeared tired and defeated. Congratulations on the promotion. Thank you. What can I do for you, Jennifer? She set a folder down on my desk. Veltri is exploring acquisition options. We'd like Hailtorm to consider making an offer. 3 months later, the acquisition was finalized, not from lingering grudges, but because it made solid business sense. Hailtorm's board valued Veltri's technology stack. If not their approach to client management, I insisted on one condition. Every Veltri employee would be fairly considered for roles in the merged company. No one would go through what I had. On closing day, I drove to Veltri's old office. The converted warehouse where I'd spent 7 years. The building seemed smaller somehow. Remaining staff gathered nervously in the main conference room as I addressed them. "I'm not here to clean house," I began, scanning familiar faces. "I'm here because what we're building at Hailtorm is founded on the same principle that should have protected me here. Relationships matter. They're worth investing in and protecting." I saw relief and understanding in their eyes. "Your jobs are secure if you want them, your contributions valued. All I ask is that you bring that same commitment to clients, colleagues, partners, to everything you do from now on." Afterwards, I took one last walk through the empty sales floor. I paused at my old desk. Now cleared of its temporary occupant, my phone buzzed. A message from Dave. "Heard the news. Poetic justice, my friend." I smiled, gazing out at the Cincinnati skyline from the window near my former workspace. The view was unchanged, but I was different, stronger, clearer on what truly mattered. I texted back. "Not about justice, about building something better." Then I walked away, not bothering to glance at the empty space where my sales awards once stood. I didn't need them anymore. The real value had never been on that wall. It was in the connections I'd made, the relationships I'd built, the ones that survived when everything else fell apart.